Okay, first I'm going to assume you're using Lightroom. And if you have the most current version or the web-based version, which is what I do. I pay for the subscription monthly for Lightroom, so it updates itself all the time. Anyway, let me move this out of the way. I'll just put it up here. I'm not sure exactly what you were asking about the effect other than maybe the darkish looking background in that photo. So I just grabbed one of Hunter here that I had. This is this is sort of the finished version of it. This is right here. This is the straight out of camera version. So I'll show you how I went about getting to this. And then we'll go from there. So what I do is I get my photo right out of the camera. The first thing I do is I make sure you're on the Develop tab, and then I come over here. And what I start with is I hit Auto, and I let it start to do what it thinks should be done. All right, and then for this one, I take the highlights and I take it all the way down to the left. And you can work with the shadows. For this effect, I would just double click it and reset the shadows to 0. And then we'll scroll down here a little bit, And let's always come here to the Lens Corrections tab and make sure you click Enable Profile Corrections. That will set it to your camera, your lens. It'll pop right up in here and tell you. And then I hit Remove Chromatic Aberration. All right, and then in the Detail tab, I'm not going to add any sharpening to this overall global photo right now. What I will do is this masking right here. What that does is it tries to sharpen just the subject rather than the whole photo. So, and the way best to explain it is if you hit the Alt key on your keyboard, you hold that down and then click on this and then drag it to the right. Everything you see in white is sharpened. And as you go to the right, you'll see that it will lose some of that. And in this, we only want the dog to be sharpened. Now, this photo has a lot of background that's going to be sharpened a little bit too, but we'll do the best we can. So I take it up to about 70. It'll be 71 there. Okay. All right, and then noise reduction. I don't add a lot, but if you see up here, it tells you what your ISO was. I was outside, the ISO was at 1,000. Really not. I'll give it 10, but I usually don't mess with the noise reduction unless I'm inside without lights. And then that's about all I do right there. Okay, we'll get out of that. Okay. All right, now what we want to do is give it a little bit of a matte look. So to do that, you're going to click here on Tone Curve. And you'll see this little box pop up. Okay. It should look just like that. It should say Point Curve Linear. And then what I do is just give it a tiny bit of a matte look, not much. So you're going to put your cursor here and then click and then just drag this up just a little bit. You don't have to go real far. And then put your cursor right about here and drag it down just a hair. You'll see the matte look happening as you go with it. So if you want to reset everything, just come over here and click linear again. It'll reset it. Okay. I'll show you what it does in different spots. So we'll go up a little bit here. If you come up here, see how it you going into the lighter areas here, and then down here are the darker areas. So anyway, what I do is I just come up here a little bit, and I just move this over a little bit. Just a little bit of a matte look. You don't want to, I mean, you can go as far as you want. That's about all I like to do there. And then I just, okay, so I'm done there. All right, now, we already took away the highlights. I think I'm going to just reset the whites to 0 also. That's right here on the basic stuff. All right, once we've gotten that far, I'm going to take the exposure down because you're looking for a sort of a more darker, moodier background. So with my down arrow key on the keyboard, make sure your little cursor is highlighted on exposure. And then with your down key, you can click and just go down. I'm going to take this down to about like that, I think. You can use your best judgment, whatever you think is going to look nice. Okay. So now that you got that, what I'm going to do is, and this is the greatest thing and the newest thing of photo or in Lightroom. This is the greatest thing because you had to do this all manually before, and it was a pain. But right up here, you'll see these little icons here. If you click on this one on the right, the little round one that says masking, and it'll ask you what you want to do. Okay, so we want to add a new mask. We want to select the subject. Okay, when you watch, it'll have a little thing here, detecting subject, and when it's detected, it'll highlight it in red. It's really cool. It takes a minute, depending on how fast your computer is and how much background. Okay, so there it is. Now, on my last trial, it got this perfectly, but I want to take away some of this because I don't want the tree highlighted. So what you're going to do is you're going to click on the minus. I want to take away from the mask with a brush. So what I'll do is I'll just make the brush a little bigger, not much. Okay, I will take it here, make sure it's on minus, and then sometimes it highlights the subject and you do not have to add or remove anything. This particular time it did not. Oh, make sure your flow and density are up too. Okay, see, that works much better. Okay. And that takes away because you don't want to bring the exposure up on the tree. We're trying to keep that dark and moody. Okay. And then there's a little bit in here between his legs. We want to keep that dark too. We just want to bring him up, his exposure. For the most part, you may not be getting it perfect. You know, it doesn't probably have to be exactly perfect, but sometimes I'll work on it for hours just trying to get perfection, you know, and then sometimes I'm like, screw it, I'm not messing with all of that. But anyway, so there, I mean, that looks pretty good. Okay, then when you're done doing that, make sure you click back here again on this, where the dog is. Click on that. Okay, make sure he's highlighted. Okay, now what you're going to do after he's highlighted, we're going to want to bring the exposure up on Hunter or whichever dog you have in the photo. So put your cursor right on the exposure thing and use your little up keyboard arrow to bring it up. And the red thing will disappear after you make the first click. And you can see as I click, it is coming up higher and higher. Okay, so I think I'm going to leave it there. You can do it to your liking. What I am going to do is come down here to the shadows, and I'm just going to, you can also just click on it and drag it to the right to see how far you want to go. If you go too far, it's going to look fake. So in this picture, I think I probably wouldn't go more than about 60 at the most. I'll leave it there about 55. I think that looks pretty good. Uh, and texture. This texture thing is the coolest thing. I love this. Now, I'm going to show you what it does, so I'm going to bring it all the way up. But when I come up to 100, watch what it does to his fur. See how it brings out the texture. But of course, again, that's too much, unless you're going for that effect. But I usually don't go over about 15 to 20. Unless you're going for a different type of effect, you can. So I'll leave that right there. And this is where we'll sharpen Hunter just a little bit. Down here where it says sharpness, I'll put it up to, yeah, maybe about 20. Yes, that looks good. You can experiment with that. Okay, now so far that looks pretty good. Now if you want to change the temperature on just the dog, come up here to where it says temp. And if you go to the left, it's going to make it more cool, see? Go to the right, it's going to put way more warmth in. So, however you want to do it, however you like it, is what you can do. I kind of like it a little bit on the warm side myself. So, I think I'll just leave it right there. And then you can change the tint also. I usually don't mess with that. But, again, it's all to your liking. Alright, so that's our mask. Once you're done with that, make sure you click Done to save everything in the mask. That saves it. Now, you're going to want to add a vignette. So you'll come down here to your Lightroom supplied presets. And over here to vignetting. And you have none, you have light. And if you hover over it, you'll see how the picture will change. Now for this effect that you're going for, I would either go for either a medium or a heavy. I'm going to choose heavy for this particular one. Okay, and so there you have the vignette. And if you hover again, you'll see there's none, there's the vignette. Okay. Now this was taken in the winter, so there aren't a lot of background colors or green, but if you want to enhance any of the colors in the whole global photo, come down here to the HSL tab. Right? You can change the hue, like watch. Well, yeah, the red changed a little bit on here, but that one's not a real good one. Let's try orange. See? You go that way, go this way. You can mess around in here and see, I usually don't change hues very often. Mostly what I work with is either luminance, which either makes it really bright or dark. And a lot of times I just leave it right there. I may increase the luminance just like one click sometimes. That looks okay. What I usually use most of the time in this one is the saturation sliders. And you can do whatever you want. I'll show you with green, since there's some green here on the tree trunks and the stump. If you take the green all the way to the left, it's going to desaturate it. You won't hardly see it. If you come to the right, see, you get more. If you want the sky, the blue in the sky in the back, if you want a lot of blue, see, you come all the way to the right and it'll increase the blue. Or if you don't want it, you can take it out. Being that this is a wintertime photo, I was trying to find a different one to show you, which had a lot of more colors in the background, but I couldn't find it. But I think this will give you the basic idea of how these work and what to do. So, and then I like the green, so we'll just let the green in there. And there you go. That's pretty much it. I mean, you can mess around with it more. You can take the overall exposure down more if you think that's still too bright. And then, okay, so the overall exposure will bring him down also, but that's okay. All you do is click on your mask, and if you want to bring Hunter back up, you make sure you click on that and then hit the exposure, and it'll bring him back up. So you can do that however you want to do that. So, and then make sure you always click that done thing when you're working with the mask. Okay, well, I hope that helped. See, that one's a little brighter, but I hope that helped you get a kind of a basic understanding of it. I'm not an expert at this by far, but I'm willing to help. If you have any other questions and I can answer them, I will. So, all right. Let me see your picture after you work with it. I want to see it. Okay, bye.